I might even argue that when it's all said and done, like when his career is over, Steph Curry might just be the most entertaining athlete to watch in any sport ever. I think that Luka and Kyrie can win a championship together.
I don't think they can win a championship together, and I think it's the same reason why Kyrie and LeBron split ways in Cleveland. I think they both want to be the number one guy.
Welcome back to the Alley-Oop Podcast. I'm Brian, that's Casey. This is episode number 3. Today we're going to be talking about a bunch of things going on in the NBA, like Steph Curry's masterclass he's been putting on, along with the Super Bowl recap from this past weekend and some other interesting news around the NBA itself. Like I said, we're going to start off with that Super Bowl from this past weekend, which was an unbelievable game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, and then we're going to go into the NBA. So make sure y'all do like, subscribe, and follow us down below on TikTok and on Twitter. With that being said, let's jump into it.
What's up, guys? Casey from the Alley Podcast here, and today we're going to be touching briefly on the Super Bowl this past Sunday as the Chiefs barely beat the 49ers 25-22 in the last seconds of the first overtime. Brian, what do you think about Brock Purdy's performance?
Dude, honestly, I didn't think that he played great. I'm not going to lie. I thought that there were some throws that he missed, especially the deep ball. Second half of the game, he missed. I think he missed Debo on a pass I thought he should have connected on in the end zone. And then, but honestly, I attribute that more to the Chiefs' defense and to Steve Spagnuolo specifically, the defensive coordinator, because he was throwing blindside blitzes, free rushers at Purdy all night, and that really rattled him. The play that I really want to highlight is that play right after the 2-minute warning, 3rd and 4. The Niners had the ball at the end of the fourth quarter, and they just sent all-out pressure. Guy right in Purdy's face, no blockers, and it forced an incomplete pass. Not only did that force them to have to get rid of the ball and punt it away there, but that also gave the Chiefs an extra, 2 minutes of time. They didn't have to waste any timeouts. They saved their timeouts. So as far as Purdy goes, I didn't think he played a terrible game, but I thought that he did miss on some throws, and that inexperience did kind of show a little bit. I think that, honestly, if I were the Niners, I would have leaned a little bit more on Christian McCaffrey. I don't know why they kind of stopped running the ball. I thought that he was getting a lot of holes, and even in overtime on their drive where they scored the field goal, you saw McCaffrey getting a ton of yards, breaking some plays up the sideline. I would have stuck more with McCaffrey. I didn't think Purdy played terrible, but I do think that the reason why that game was lost for the Niners was because of the quarterback battle, and Patrick Mahomes simply is better than Brock Purdy, and that's the reason why the Chiefs won.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, Mahomes has definitely played better than Purdy. He had over 80 more yards than Purdy, and he was just slinging the ball. I mean, let's first talk about Travis Kelce, who had 1 yard at halftime and then ends the game with 9 receptions and 93 yards. And it's predominantly in the fourth quarter and barely in overtime, honestly. So, I mean, when you need him, he's there. Kelce, old reliable, finding the hole, getting those catches. But just to touch on what you said about Christian McCaffrey, I mean, I don't know why he did not get the ball more. I mean, he had 120 all-purpose yards. He had 7 receptions and 60 yards in the air, and he's just a great dual back, and I honestly don't know why they didn't give him the ball more, and I think that was their downfall. And Brock Purdy just looked a little nervous out there. I mean, obviously Mr. Irrelevant first Super Bowl. I think he is a talented player, but he just didn't look like he was willing to take that many big risks. I mean, the one cool trick play that the 49ers did with Juwan Jennings and Christian McCaffrey, I mean, that was a great play call by the coaching, and obviously it worked, but let's just say I don't think it looked that pretty. I mean, I was expecting a pick, or there were so many guys on the other side of the ball and they threw it back, but that just shows you again how elusive Christian McCaffrey is, and if the ball is in his hand more, we might be talking about a different outcome.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, and let's not forget, though, McCaffrey did fumble on that first drive, so that kind of hurts them looking back on it. I mean, Pacheco also fumbled for the Chiefs. Honestly, I thought the game was a great defensive battle. I thought that it was one of those games where every single play, really mattered. Every time a team would get a big run or a big completion or whatever it was, or a sack, I was like, wow, this could actually change the outcome of the game, and that was how it was the entirety of the game. So that goes to show how good the defense is played. But like I said earlier, I completely agree with your point on McCaffrey.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best in the NFL at what he does. So, I mean, we could also talk about the tight end play with George Kittle. In our other podcast, I was expecting him to have a big game, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I think he had 3 receptions for 6 yards. He did have a clutch 4th down reception late in the game, but he wasn't really a deal breaker. I know he is predominantly used for blocking and his blocking ability, but he didn't really have that powerful yard after catch aspect that he usually can have.
Yeah, I would have liked to see the Niners get him more involved, especially considering how the corners for the Chiefs were playing. L'Jarius Sneed was playing really well, and the rest of those guys in the secondary were pretty much locking up the Niners for the majority of the game. So I definitely would have liked to see McCaffrey and Kittle get the ball a lot more. And like you mentioned with Kelsey, I don't know why they took forever to get him involved. Like you said, in the second half, I think he had 8 catches for like 91 yards or whatever it was. So like after only the one
Yeah.
catch at halftime, it's just like you got your best players. You gotta get them the ball in these big games, especially them. And the Chiefs
Mhm.
finally realized or recognized how to do that. The Niners, I thought they struggled with that. So I don't know. Part of it can go down to the coaching. I think part of it goes down to this inexperience. And again, you got to give credit to the Chiefs defense where credit's due.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I want to touch on for this game is the 49ers' decision to kick the field goal late, knowing that they're giving Mahomes, the greatest quarterback in the NFL currently, a chance to go down and score a touchdown. Do you think that was the right call? What are your thoughts?
You talking about in overtime or in the end of the
Yeah.
fourth quarter? In overtime?
Well, both. In the end of the fourth quarter more so.
In the fourth quarter, you take those points,
It
I
was,
think.
it was 4th and 4.
Yeah. In the fourth quarter, I think in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl, the way that the defense was playing, I think you have to take your points. It, the bigger thing that I had a problem with the Niners was after the game, hearing how the players didn't even know the overtime rules, and they were saying how
Yeah,
like they never even prepared for it, and like as far as Shanahan's decision to take the ball, if it were me, I wouldn't have done it.
I would
I
not.
would have kicked. Like I don't know. I guess that
I
shows
don't get the
me.
reasoning.
What'd you
I
say?
don't get it. I don't get the reasoning behind it at all.
I don't
But
know.
I was listening to some guy on ESPN talk about how his defense was tired because they've been out there so much in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. But if your defense makes a stop and you can Brock Purdy has a touchdown drive to win it, I feel like that's where you want to be.
Well, you just need a
I don't
field goal
know.
at that point. Like if you stop them
Yeah,
completely, you could maybe just need a field goal.
yeah, completely. Yeah, feel.
And I
So I
think
heard them saying that they didn't want to put the pressure on the rookie.
that's gonna say I
Or
think
not Purdy.
that shows kind of the lack of faith and trust they had in Purdy and his big moments because they didn't want him going out there needing to put up points to tie or to win the game. They were like, all right, let's
Which
let
is
him
kind of
go play free, play normal. You can't lose the game here unless you throw a pick. And honestly, again, I'm surprised, but again, the Chiefs defense came up huge on that first drive, stopping them like right near right in the red zone actually. And I thought they were going to score a touchdown, and then it would have been tough for the Chiefs to come back after that. But I mean, look, I think just the Chiefs were the more experienced team. I honestly don't think they have a better roster. I think the Niners by far have the better roster, but they have
On
Patrick
paper,
Mahomes.
easily.
They have Patrick Mahomes, and that's the end of this. That's the end of the story.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Last thing that I want to touch on, like we can't discredit their defense. Like they played amazing. I heard a stat on the radio yesterday on my way to the city, but it was like the Chiefs against the top five. The Chiefs played the top five scoring offenses, like in the playoffs or something like that. That were averaging 31 points per game, and they held them to 15.8 points per game.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
that's just insane. They had the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Niners.
yeah.
I
The
mean,
Bills.
the Bills, yeah. So
Yeah, dude.
they played the real deal, legitimate
Exactly.
offensive weapons.
Exactly, and that's
So
like I said about Steve Spagnuolo. Like that goes out to him, and like one of the best. I mean, being a Giants fan, I saw a lot of Steve. He won us two Super Bowls. Like he was defensive coordinator.
yeah,
He's one of the best big game coordinators ever, and I'm
mm,
happy for him that he won his Super Bowl, and that's awesome.
yeah,
And I want to segue a little bit into the NBA with this quote from Patrick Mahomes. The other day they asked him like something about like, hey, like if you were in the NBA, like do you think you could have played basketball or whatever it was? Because he was I also took up basketball when he was younger, and he said if I was in the NBA, I would be like Steph Curry, which is kind of crazy because you could argue that he's like the Steph Curry of the NFL right
from
now,
them, yeah,
and you can
or,
argue that
yeah,
Steph is the Patrick Mahomes, whatever. But with that being said, let's talk about Steph Curry a little bit and his recent stretch over his last 10 games, averaging 33 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. He put up a 60-point game in that stretch. He put up a game where he only scored 9 points. So he really has like a game where that 9 point game is pulling down his
just the one
entire
outlier,
averages,
yeah,
and he's still averaging 33. And then obviously the other night, one of the most
the game
insane shots
winner.
of the season, the game-winning shot against the Suns. A quick backstory. Casey knows this, but for you guys watching, I was in Switzerland because, like I said, I am studying abroad right now in Italy. But I was in Switzerland, and Casey texted me. He goes, "When you wake up and see this Steph Curry game winner, you're gonna go crazy." And I woke up to it, and I look and I watch it. I'm like, "This is unbelievable!" Like I was going crazy. It was absolutely insane. But Steph, Case, I just want to get your thoughts on his recent performances, and he got the Warriors now. I think they're a game over 500 now. They're kind of, I think they're still 10th in the West, but they're kind of getting their groove on. They have the easiest remaining schedule out of any team in the league. Can you talk about Steph and where you think the Warriors will end up here seating wise?
Yeah, I mean, first off, that shot was unbelievable. There was like 2.6 seconds left. I don't even know how he got the ball. It looked, he didn't really have control of it at first, and then he just throws up that absolute dagger, and I was like, oh my god. I texted Brett right away, and I was like, that's an amazing shot. But I mean, over the last what would you say 5 games or week, 33 points per game. I mean, he elevates the players around him too. I think a big reason that he's having the success is Draymond Green. I think people don't they underestimate him as much the way he spaces out the floor because he could score, he could rebound, he could assist very, very well. He's just a great player to have out there, so I definitely think that's a reason for Curry's success. And I mean, Steph Curry is unhuman. He's the best. He's the hardest guy to defend without the ball.
Yeah.
You know, there's that clip of like J.R. Smith talking about Matthew Dellavedova trying to guard him in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, I can't guard him. The way he just like gets off-ball screens and is constantly running around and then catches it, shoots it, and just chucks up a 30-foot dagger. It's like, it's insane. And as you said, they have the easiest schedule left. I could totally see them being a 4 or 5 seed. I mean, when you have Steph Curry on your team, you can always make a run. And I mean, I would be afraid to play them if I was any of the teams in the West. But I also think that Kuminga is also a big add-on to their success as well. I mean, he went from probably averaging around 10 to 11 points per game, and in the last month, he's averaging upwards of 18 to 20. So he's definitely gotten in their groove. I think Steve Kerr has been passing the ball around very well, and when the ball's in Curry's hands, he's just lights out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, and I want to touch on Draymond a little bit because I completely agree with you. I think last night against the Jazz, I think he had 12, 10, and like 8, almost a triple-double. And he's really, like you said, people don't recognize how important Draymond is to to the offense for the Warriors. Like he doesn't put up like a lot of points, but actually last night he had a half-court shot last night. Like he's been actually shooting the ball a lot better since he got back from his suspension. But also in that Suns game, the whole like controversy between him and Nurkic, and Steph talked after the game. Steph talked about like him walking that line where it's like he gets the team energized and he like kind of is chippy and does the things that Draymond does, but he's like not he doesn't go over that line that he used to. And I think that's important because in a game like that where you got a high-powered offense against a high-powered offense, like you need some energy, especially when the Suns made a run. I think the Suns were up by like 8 at some point. I want to say it was the late third quarter, and the Warriors
Third
went
quarter,
up.
yeah. I was watching.
Yeah,
They were winning the third. Booker looked unstoppable. He was scoring basket
yeah,
after basket.
yeah, and he had a slow
And then Curry
start
came
too.
in and silenced him.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we've seen that so many times. But just what I was saying was, you need some kind of advantage. I know you're at home, but you need some kind of energy, and that's what Draymond brings to the team, especially with Clay not performing the way he has been this season, or the way we know he can this season. Draymond's that piece that I think brings that energy, as you mentioned. And as far as like just think what you were saying about like, that game with Book and KD, I would love to see a Warriors Suns playoff series. That would be
Playoffs. Yeah.
unbelievable. Like the scoring on both ends of the floor, just absolute dogs. Like back and forth, KD, Book, Steph, Kuminga, like you said, Clay. Just that was an unbelievable game. One of the best games of the season for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Clay also did put up 26 points last night, so that could be him getting back in his groove. I mean, we will see. The triple-double magnet, Luka Doncic, is my most impressive player and most exciting player to watch in this current NBA. I mean, as we said it in the last podcast, he is a 3-level scorer. He could shoot like no other. His step back is absolutely, it's water. And the way he could drive and get to the free throw line, I mean, he is just unstoppable, and he has elevated this Mavericks team to places I never thought they could be able to go. I mean, he also averages about 11 rebounds, I think, and 9 assists. He basically averages a triple-double, so he's on triple-double watch every single night. And I just think he's absolutely amazing, the way that he can score and just get the ball. So, Brian, who do you think is the most exciting player to watch in the NBA?
I mean, you know who I'm gonna pick. Like everybody watching this video knows I'm picking Steph Curry. Like there's just no other player that like if Steph Curry's on TV, I'm watching the game. Like it's just and that's it. And I think that every night, like there's a chance that he does something so amazing, or he gets a clip that goes viral or whatever. And that's not to discredit Luka, because Luka's amazing too. And like you said, his step back and his bag is so deep, and he plays at such his own pace, which I love out of Luka. And he's amazing all-around player, one of the best scorers in the league for sure. But there's just something about the way Steph plays. It's the off-ball movement, it's the catch and shoot, it's the release that is literally like not even a second to get his
Half a
shot off.
second.
It's the 30 footers, it's the dribble sequences, it's everything. Watching Steph, I might even argue that when it's all said and done, like when his career is over, that Steph Curry, I can maybe make this argument that Steph Curry might just be the most entertaining athlete to watch in any sport ever. And that might be crazy. That might be insane because we got like you're talking about like athletes. Now you're talking about like you got like Mike Tyson, you got like LeBron, you got guys like Jordan, Tom Brady.
Brady.
Like you got these goats, right?
Yeah.
But Steph, we can talk for days about how he transcended basketball and he transcended the sport and all that, but I just find for me he's the most entertaining product. And when it's all said and done and he's not playing anymore, I think the league itself is going to be a lot less exciting, just because of
Mhm.
what the guy does on a nightly basis and just the potential of what he could do. Like, there's no other player where you'd be okay with him shooting 13, 15, 20 threes in a game. But for him, those are all
Yeah.
good shots. So, I don't know. I think when you have a player like that, it's so exciting. I love watching him, and you're just never out of a game with Steph. So that's another reason why find him to be the most entertaining player for me. But, I mean, I respect the Luka opinion, too.
I mean, yeah, I totally get the Steph point. I mean, he is. I mean, we just talked about him. He's amazing. The way he could transform a basketball game is crazy. But one thing I wanted to say is that he's definitely transformed basketball with the art of like a three-pointer. Even at lower levels, like high school and varsity levels, like kids are shooting a lot more threes from deep, and people are always working on their three-pointer rather than their driving package. So I think even when he is gone, we will see new people in the NBA that like to shoot. I mean, there are other players in the NBA who shoot highly three-point percentages, but none of them compare to Steph. So I agree that he is the best, but I think the league is trending in a way that three-pointers are going to be a lot more common.
Yeah, I agree. And it's I don't know. Part of me thinks it's sad to see like these games where like the defense is just like it's just like a track meet sometimes. I'm a huge NBA guy. Like I love the NBA. We have a podcast about the NBA. But I sometimes I understand the argument where like the NBA is just no defense and all that. I understand it, and it makes me sad as a basketball fan, which is why I love the playoffs because the playoffs is when you really see teams kind of lock in. You see the scores are
Lock
hover around
in.
100 points, like back in the day. Like I like that. So, but yeah, no, I do think that the league is trending that way, and like and also we're just seeing better athletes. Like I don't think we've ever had this much talent in the NBA, maybe ever.
Yeah.
Like every single team has a guy who's just like, wow, like he's a super, like he could be a superstar or he is a superstar.
Yeah.
And we're talking
Hmm.
about guys who have been around since the early to the mid 2000s, all the way to the guys who were drafted recently. Like last night, Victor Wembanyama, I think he shot what was it, 11 for 14. He had triple double with blocks. Like that's insane. He had 10 blocks. I think he had what like 13 rebounds and like 27 points, and he also had 5 assists. He almost had a quadruple double in the
Yeah.
NBA, and he's 7'4", like or whatever the hell he's 7'4",
It was
seven
also
four.
it was also a blowout, so he didn't play as many minutes. So
Exactly, but just the talent. Then we got guys like Cooper Flagg coming into the league in a couple of years. We got Bronny. Like
yeah.
there are just guys coming into the league that are just freaks. Like these guys are freak athletes. So I'm excited to see where that goes with the league, and I'm excited to see how these
Mhm.
guys translate their high school and college success into the league, playing against like stronger,
Yeah.
more experienced athletes. But I definitely think that the way that it's going, yeah, these teams. I mean, the teams are just shooting more threes than they have been for the past couple of years. But it makes for excitement when you got guys like Luka, Steph, Trey Young, who can hit these big shots and these clutch
And
buckets.
deep, yeah. One quick thing I want to touch over that you mentioned about Bronny James. Do you think that wherever Bronny James gets drafted to, LeBron will automatically go to them? Because that definitely raises his draft stock a lot.
I, this is see this is not fair for the NBA. Like this isn't fair for like teams actually wanting to pursue LeBron
It's
because
basically like that LeBron James is back on the draft board, in my
yeah,
opinion.
exactly. And recently he made a comment as of maybe a couple months ago. He was saying how like he just wants to play like in the league at the same time. I don't think he like committed to like wanting to play or needing to play with Bronny, though he did mention that would be an
Mhm.
exciting time. But I do think that whichever team drafts Bronny has a good chance of getting LeBron too. Now, that's
Yeah.
if LeBron doesn't get traded in the next couple. Like if LeBron gets traded, if he opts out of his contract, he has a player option after this year. If he opts out, I don't think Bronny's going to the league next year. I just don't think he had his like his cardiac arrest thing earlier this
Mhm.
season, which kept him out. Glad he's doing all right. He's playing at USC, but I don't think that he's gonna honestly. I don't think he's ready for the NBA yet. Um, so if he, I think for that, LeBron might just stay in LA for his last year of his
Mhm.
contract, and then hope that Bronny gets there the next year after his sophomore year at USC, and then
Yeah.
LeBron will kind of go that way. But with that being said, yeah, I do think there's a good chance that that happens. I think there's a really good possibility of it, and that could make one of these small market teams really interesting because you could see
Yeah.
a team like I don't even know, like again, like the Spurs or even Charlotte. Like, I mean, I don't, it'd be crazy to see like LeBron in one of those uniforms, but I mean, I think it's a
In
possibility.
Charlotte.
I don't
The
know.
Hornets uniform, Brownie and Brown. I mean, one thing I want to touch on is like Brown. Like I don't know if Brownie's a first round pick. Like his performance at USC is probably like what 6 points a game. He's probably averaging 6 points a
It's
game.
lackluster
So
for sure.
he's not an all star. Like he's not. I don't think he's as good as Jared McClain or McCain at Duke. So I don't know. I think his draft stock is going to be inflated to LeBron, but I guess that's a topic for a later time.
Yeah, I know I agree with you, and I think that yeah, I definitely agree. I think that Bronny needs another year or two at college just to kind of, refine his skills. I mean, he's a great player. He's going to be in the NBA most likely because, if nothing else, because of his name. I hate to like say that about a kid, but like
You're not
realistically, he's
wrong. I
going to
mean,
be in the NBA. He's an talented. I think he was McDonald's All-American in high school. Like he's a talented player, and he's going to be good. But I think that with his size, 6'2", if I'm not mistaken, maybe 6'3", he needs to like really he needs to become like a Kyrie, a Chris Paul, a Steph. Like he needs to get that kind of skill in order to succeed in the NBA at 6'3" or 6'2", however tall he is, because that's just the
yeah.
nature of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, he's significantly undersized. He's not no LeBron Jr. I mean, yeah, he doesn't play like LeBron. He's more of a guard. So if you can get like Curry, I mean Curry's kind of crazy to be able to play like him.
I had to throw him
To
in
be
there.
more reasonable, to be more reasonable, we could say like Chris Paul. I feel like that's a good goal to shoot for. This past week, the trade deadline passed, and a lot of interesting moves were made. One of the main things that we didn't see is All-Star DeJounte Murray make any moves. He is staying in Atlanta. But there were many other moves made across the league that we would love to get into with you guys. So starting off, the Knicks acquired Bogdan Bogdanovic from the Detroit Pistons, along with Alec Burks, sending away Evan Fournier, and I'm pretty sure a few picks.
Yeah.
So just that trade alone, Brian, I want to get your opinion. I think Bogdan adds another three-point threat, along with Alec Burks. They're both scorers, and it really didn't seem like they gave up too much to me, and I think they'll be good alongside Brunson, especially until Randall is fully healthy.
Yeah, Burks reunites with the Knicks, and the Knicks get a three-point sniper who averages just about 20 points per game, if I'm not mistaken, for the Pistons. And this is, I think, is a great trade for the Knicks. I'm obviously a Nets fan, y'all know that, and I don't like the Knicks. I really don't. But like I mentioned in the first episode, this is a team that could make the NBA Finals. Like I really think that this team could make the NBA Finals, which is a crazy thing to say. But if they stay healthy, and they need to get healthy, because OG's out right now, I'm pretty sure. I think he's still injured. Randall's out. So, excuse me. I think that this is a great trade for the Knicks. I think the Knicks were the winner of the trade deadline if I had to pick a team. But with
Yeah.
that being said, I like what they did. And for the Pistons, I don't really understand it. They didn't even, I guess they get a second round pick, but the Knicks haven't given up a first round pick this year. And they got OG, they got Bogdanovic and Burks. That's just a masterclass by Leon Rose, and you don't get to hear that very often
Mhm.
if you're a Knicks fan. So I mean, I think the Knicks are in really good shape if they can stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I guess the Pistons are just in full rebuild mode. I don't know what Evan Fournier is going to do to help that. 'Cause I don't know. He went out on the media and said he thanks God that he got out of New
I
York.
saw
So
that.
I don't know what the deal with that is there. I mean, I don't remember him playing good at all. So, but that's another thing. I know you want to briefly touch on the Nets. So do you want to talk about the Nets um, deadline? Because I know my Cavs did absolutely nothing. So
Yeah, the Nets had, as we talked about last week, the Nets had a lot of different directions they could go, and I think that we were kind of in the middle, which kind of doesn't make me too happy. But we got Dennis Schroeder, we traded away Spencer Dinwiddie, we also acquired Thaddeus Young for about 30 minutes, then we bought him out. He just actually just signed with the Suns, like as of like 20 minutes ago. We're recording this on Tuesday. You guys are seeing it on Wednesday, but So, and then we also traded Royce O'Neal to the Suns for I think some like cash and a second round pick or something like that. I don't know. But point being, I'm glad we got rid of Dinwiddie. That was long overdue. Love the guy from like what he did with the Nets like back in 2019 and like all those years, but he just didn't want to be in Brooklyn, and honestly, he wasn't playing great. And from what I saw from Schroeder in his first game, 15 points, 12 assists. Guy was awesome. Like he was awesome. I don't really watch much Dennis Schroeder. Like I really haven't. Like I haven't like loved watching him play like over the years. But watching him play next to Ben Simmons, next to McCall, next to Cam Thomas, he looked good. He looked really, really good. And ideally for the Nets, and I think that this is what the Nets front office is hoping with what we did this at the deadline, is that next summer we can go get a big time free agent. I know you don't want to hear this, but Donovan Mitchell, I don't know why Donovan Mitchell will come to the Nets. I don't listen. That's what they're saying. I don't know. I don't think
Please
it's gonna happen.
no, please
I don't think
no.
it'll happen. But I would love it, but I don't think it'll happen. But I think the Nets want to get a big superstar because I think that Schroeder fits in perfectly as like a point guard to like distribute. Because right now he kind of needs to be a scorer too because we just don't have anybody to score. We're not that good of a team. But if he could be just like a
Yeah.
distributor for like another guy alongside McCall, alongside Cam, Ben Simmons been playing pretty well since he's been back. So and Claxton also, I think Claxton had 20 points and 11 rebounds in his first game with Schroeder. So we just needed a point guard. We got a point guard. I'm happy with that. So this season, hopefully, we can just kind of win some games, not be the complete laughing stock of the league like we have been for the first couple months, and kind of see where we go. But I love what we did as far as that goes. But I definitely think that there's a lot more that needs to be done in the offseason. But I also want to ask you your thoughts on a different team, a different trade. The Dallas Mavericks. They got P.J. Washington from the Hornets. How do you think that that's fit in so far in the past couple of days, and where do you see that? Where does that put the Mavs now in the West? I think they're right now maybe the 5 or 6 seed. I'm not really sure. They're not top four,
I
but
think
they're
I
in the
think
mix.
they'll elevate to the 4 seed in my opinion. I mean, PJ Washington was cooking on the Hornets in his last few games. He dropped like 38 points earlier in the season, and I think he's just a great addition. The more weapons you put around Luka, the better Luka's going to be because he's going to be able to dish the ball out, and he is a great passer. So I think honestly it brings the Mavs up even more. I think the Mavericks are a great like dark horse team. I know they're not the top of the West right now, but I don't know. You could look at the Nuggets, who are like at the top of the West, and they just lost yesterday to the Bucks in blowout fashion. They were on the road, and I know that does play a big factor to these big teams. But I don't know. I think the Mavericks are definitely a team that can go deep with Kyrie too.
Do
I
you
think it
think?
depends on Kyrie's play as well.
I was just gonna ask you. Do you think that the Kyrie and Luca thing is working, or do you think that? Because I saw that the Lakers are going to be pursuing Kyrie potentially in the offseason, and I don't know, man. Like, do you think that Luca and Kyrie can win a championship together?
No, I don't think. I like lost my voice. I don't think they go win a championship together, and I think it's the same reason why Kyrie and LeBron split ways in Cleveland. I think they both want to be the number one guy, and Kyrie's not the number one guy here. I mean, they did put up 35 and 25 the other night, but like Kyrie wants the ball at the end of the game for the last shot, and Luka wants the ball, and it's going to cause problems, and definitely in the playoffs too. And I think we're going to see that. I do think they're a good team, but I don't think they can make the NBA Finals and win. And I just think it's because both of those guys have big egos. Not saying it's a bad thing, but they both want to be the number one on their team, and only one of them can be. So,
Yeah, and we saw that in Brooklyn too with Kyrie, with
Kevin
KD. I
Durant,
mean,
yeah,
it's the same. I mean, it is what it is. Kyrie's an amazing player. Honestly, one of the most exciting athletes or basketball players that
one of
I've
the
ever
best ball
watched. Like, yeah,
handlers.
probably the best ball handler ever.
Yeah,
Watching him is like it's box office every time. But he's in and out of the in and off the court with his injuries. Even this year, he was injured again. And like you said, they've got Luca right there. So if they can figure out that balance, I think that they have a really good team. But their defense also concerns me. I don't know how good they are defensively. Luca is not a great
yeah.
defender. Kyrie's an underrated defender, but I don't really know. I don't know. I agree with you. I don't think they can win the championship. I think that they are definitely better, though, after that trade. That is just about going to do it here for us in the Alley Oop Podcast, episode number 3. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you guys let us know in the comments. What should we talk about next week? We got the All-Star Weekend coming up. We'll be sure to talk about that. We're also going to talk about our predictions for the second half of the season and some playoff teams that could get in, could not get in, could rise or fall in the standings. So make sure y'all let us know in the comments what else you guys want to hear us talk about. Also, big important news. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Twitter. All that is in the description. We're super active on all those platforms. We're posting on TikTok a couple times a day. Also, on Twitter, I'm tweeting all the time about all things, not just basketball, not just sports, like just everything all the time, and so is Casey. So make sure you guys follow us on there. With that being said, thank you guys so much for checking out episode 3 of the Alley Oop Podcast, and we'll see you next week. Peace.